force, that's all. They shoot at you, you have nothing to answer. People have to be moved, you don't have the transport to move them. People have to be saved and helped. You don't have, you just don't have. So you ask yourself, now come on, if you're a commander and you don't have, so what sort of a commander is this? Well, this is what the situation was. Talk about that, tell me. It sounds like such an awful situation to be in.
But this is true. Makes me laugh now, it makes me cry. This is, you see, this is the most crucial, the most important point of the war. And this should only be magnified in terms of the whole Israel and the whole nation. This is, I don't know how to say it, no force, einonim. What is einonim in English? Helpless. You know? Helpless. Yeah. Einonim, there is no force in you. Helpless is a little bit of a mild expression. In Hebrew, there is a much stronger expression of helplessness or some sort of a thing. In other words, you just don't have, that's all. What do you do? If there is something, if there is any message from Latrun and other Latruns like this, is not to be caught in such a terrible moment of helplessness. This is what goes through you. What can you do? You can only break your heart, you can collapse, you can do what you can do. I mean, all right, you do what you do. You pick up stones, you fight, you organize something. But the true sense, the helplessness is something which I don't know whether I can explain what it really means. It's the end of everything. Helplessness is terrible. It doesn't, I mean, okay, we teach people there is never lost hope unless you decide that hope is lost. Even if a sword, the saying says, is on your throat, don't give up your hope to overcome it, which we teach in terms of reacting in a position of great difficulty. But it does not reflect the inner knowledge that you don't have the force necessary to combat the situation, and this is what happened there. How to express these feelings into a mutual understanding, I don't know. It has to be a great poet to give it a sense. A whole film, whole life film goes through your eyes. How come we are so helpless in a position like this? But this is philosophizing. I don't know how to tell you more. What I said there tells the story. No force, helpless. I didn't use the word helplessness because I don't think it is. It does really. There's much more than helplessness. You're stripped of every inch of force in you to react, to fight better. No hands, no grenades, no nothing. How can you explain such a thing? I don't know. I only know one thing, that this is the most important message that we have to carry from then all the way through wherever we happen to be in such helplessness. Admittedly, Israel as such, as a country, was never again in such a position. There were positions of helplessness in minor battles, but with the implication of that helplessness towards the future that could have happened is something that never happened again. Thanks God. Okay?
Okay. I want to ask you one last thing. We've heard the decision to order the retreat. That's always a very difficult decision. Tell me about that. As brigade commander, you had to come to some conclusion. Roughly 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the morning.
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. You decided, based on what you just told me, no force. What do? I have to pull them back. Tell me about that. What happened and how that decision affected you.
To decide to retreat, I cannot, it's one of these, one of these things that commander has to do. It's his responsibility. This is a part of your training to make that decision, like a decision to attack, where you really make decisions about the lives of many people going forward. A retreat is another decision of a very major importance in military thinking. It's a very difficult because it's mingled with a lot of feelings, but it's also difficult because of the timing. See, you always question yourself, is it as critical that you have to retreat? I mean, is it stupid to go on fighting if there is no chance to achieve anything except loss of life? This is a very complex decision that is not mathematically counted, not through the battle. It is in you, and it works, I think, through every sense in you. You just feel that this is what it is, mind you, based on reporting. But if you feel 1 and 2 and 2, you know, and mainly if you know who are the people in front. If you know that they will fight on like you would fight on, and they will not stop. It's up to you to stop them doing it. This is your decision. What else can I say? It's a world of feeling. It doesn't take a long time. You've come to it. You have to make a decision. Very difficult decision. Very, very difficult.
Okay. You want to ask him something?
Let me ask a few things,
Yeah.
and then we'll get to the stove.
Okay. Chuck's going to sit in.
You talked earlier on another trip and very emotionally about the legacy of this. And part of the legacy of the battle wasn't just having to do with never being this powerless again, but it had to do with something else about survival, something else about almost the heroism of the battlefield. Can you speak a little more about why Latrun is such an emotional thing for you, or why it means so much?
I don't know, unless I go into the mystical side generally of what it means, the inheritance of Israel generally to us, Jews coming to rebuild their country. How much is it beyond the formal rational thinking of, okay, let's come back and build the land of our own, protecting ourselves, etc., etc. How much? I think it's much. I think if you see, if tradition, if inheritance has a much deeper sense that moves people to give their life and fight. All right, they fight, they carry a flag, but behind it, why do people get into the army and fight a war and give their life? There's no rationale in it. There is something beyond it. So this is the type of feelings that you take over with you in other cases where it's not that you don't face the death, you have to behave. So in that way, my feeling about the struggle of Latrun, which is the saving of Jerusalem, is of that sense. I truly believe, I think it should make sense. If you agree that Jerusalem is important, if you think, well, come on, this is a psychological build-up and it is not so important, you can live without Jerusalem. In fact, you may say, I can live without Israel. If you say it, okay, then we don't argue. But if you say Jerusalem is important, as a survival point. Not you personally, but you something as a part of a bigger group, of a nation, of a community, that you are part of it. If you say that the siege was important, the 26 days nothing went into a city which was semi-hungry before that. You may say it wasn't important, Jerusalem would have held out another year or so, you may say. But if you agree to these points, so rationally you may also understand that this was crucial. There was something that you cannot grasp, that grabs you, as we say, takes you on, and you believe this is a very, very important battle. Admittedly, wherever people fight and are ready to give their life against bullets from an enemy, this is a very, very important battle. But this is somehow narrowed down into a personal alley, into a section alley. Here, other forces come up into you which bring you away from that thing. You see, I quoted once to you what Choter told me. I didn't hear it with my ears. Ben-Gurion said, you go through, you take Latrun, you go to Jerusalem, I will cancel the 9th of Av. What is the 9th of Av? What's it, Tzom? Huh? Feast. Feast. You don't eat. What is it? Huh? Fast. Fast. I'll cancel the fast of 9th of Av. What is the 9th of Av fast? The 9th of Av fast was the destruction of a temple 2,500 years ago, that you every year you go through and remember it. Is that a true inheritance in you, or is it something, technical that you read about? He had the power to voice it, but behind this voicing, actually many people in that brigade, and not only the brigade, I think in the army in general, sensed it that this was important. Technically, the fighting was near the hills of Latrun, but the breakthrough was somewhere else, away where really it proved the case. But the result was Jerusalem. So there was a battle for Jerusalem. This is the best I can explain to you. I believe that this should put into our calendar of future inheritance, that this is other people of a closer connection with divine. This is the beginning of the third temple. I'm not talking in these terms of a third temple. But if one wants to dream about a symbolically third temple proposition, this was the third temple proposition. Good God. You didn't think of an easier question. Come on, Shab.
The immigrants, the Yukon Chief, have a very special part in this. Amidst the crew that so many died, amidst that it was their fault, amidst it was Ben-Gurion's fault, and your fault for throwing them into battle. Talk about that year and why it was to stay alive all these times.
You see, the myth of the immigrants is a very interesting myth, because you see there a myth which is based on roots of a different field. They have nothing to do with factual things. The fact is, in Latrun, 15 new immigrants fell down. 15. Their names and numbers all appear in my book. There couldn't be 16. There are only 15. There's no argument. I mean, if somebody comes and says, no, there were 16, you'll have to prove to me, because I have all their names. Everyone was recorded. So this is it. And 15 out of the 139 that fell in this Battle of Latrun is a proportion which is normal. It so happened they were brought in because this is the manpower that we had. After all, there were about 150 of the total new immigration since January. in the Latrun battle, out of 2,000, they were not a major number. They became major numbers in later wars in Israel. Then we didn't have enough of them to be there. But I think, you see, the behind it is, I think it's very important that they fought there and fell there. Because if you talk about what we call brothership, the unit, not the unity of blood, the well, some other English name, same blood, as we say, blood of Abraham that runs through the veins of the people.
Start the answer over about I think it's very important, because then you hesitated to think about the right words. So just start over and say, I think it's very important that the New Immigrants fought there and fell there. And then go on.
I think it is very important that they fell there, because this is really the proof that the nation is one, that the nation abroad is one. It's not enough that you claim the Jews of America are the same as we are here, we belong to the same nation, or the Jews in Russia or somewhere else. This is the proof of being one nation. The proof is in the pudding. This is when it came to the battle. And this is where I think also the mist gets the momentum of such a terrific thing that happened. And I think this was very important. If we would have doubted including them into the battle, this would have been the worst failure of our battle for Israel. We would have never excused ourselves for doing it. Admittedly, people fell and they gave their blood, but so did everybody else. This made them real partners. And I think they are partners. They're not only partners that you ask them, come in, immigrate, bring your money, bring this, bring that. This is the test of life, where you really fight for your survival. And the fact that it so happened that Latrun came out as a symbol, together with the symbol of what happened towards Jerusalem. And I think it binds together very well, because many more fell down in the different battles of the War of Independence. But it's this battle symbolizing the fact that we survived this critical moment together. Very important point. I can only be happy about it, that it so happened. And in fact, many people tell me, okay, you have your factual numbers, don't destroy the myth. The myth is important.
Why?
Because it is important, because it is the flag that carries with it the notice. We, the Jews that come from abroad, green as we are, came here, fought with you, and this is our war. Mind you, the same with the Jews in later terms, the Machal, the experts, that came to help us very much, and many more than the immigrants, which is also a symbol of the unity of a nation. What elders? Now, the big argument against us, I'm going back to the Russian attitude. When we came to claim a country as a position of a nation, he said, what do you mean? You don't have a language, you don't have a country, you don't have anything. You are not a nation. You are a philosophy. This is the big discussion also with Toynbee also. You are not. If there is a proof that we are a nation, this is the proof. This is where it lies.
Given how tough the situation was at Latrun, both of the battles, were there heroes on the battlefield?
No question about it. There is no question. But not only the two battles, the breaking of the road, no question. It's a question of what do you define a hero. The hero, by definition, I believe, is a man, a group of people who are really come to the edge of being ready to give their life to save their unit, their friends, their comrades, if necessary in battle. This is what is heroic. You don't have more than give your life. And that is the question It's a very instinctive, very difficult operation to do. It's easy to spoke. There is no question there were heroes there. Unfortunately, we could not record enough. It was a major decision to record enough the heroes of the War of Independence, so because we felt we will never cover it, and we made the decision to give only 12 such heroes of Israel for the whole war.
What, it seems like with your talking as you did at the beginning that this is this is the most important battle in the War of Independence, the saving of Jerusalem, the symbol, etc., saving of the state through that. With your book, with your sort of having been for a half a century, as you say, kind of the lightning rod for dissent against the way you feel, as well as pushing your position, that you've really kept Latrun alive almost single-handedly. If you had disappeared, been hit by a truck 30 years ago, perhaps the story wouldn't be as strong. What is that about, do you think? Because as you combine the battles, sort of minimize the costs in the battles for the breaking through of the siege with the road, I think that's where you get most hammered is, yes, it was very important, but don't forget you lost a lot of people in battles that, you know, that people question.
Let me put it this way. One man is a lot, but 139 out of 6,000 is little. After all, in the Battle of Latrun, from what we lost in the War of Independence, is what? Is 2%. This was not a major battle in sense of losses. There were days during the War of Independence, there were more losses than Latrun. There were single battles, there were more losses in Latrun in a single day. The 139, after all, were 2 weeks. This is one battle, another battle, breaking the rope, another group, and other lost during different things. So in terms of losses, not important. But I think you're raising a more difficult question is, what would have happened if I would have been killed or dead 20 years ago and wouldn't have done the research necessary to present the case out of all the rumors, numbers, names, details, orders, everything. I admit if this would not have been done, and it was not done for any battle in the wars of Israel, there is no other book like this, no other investigation like this that went through. If it wasn't done, your question is a question. Something was brought up by stories. If it would have become the major battle for Jerusalem, I think yes. Maybe a little bit further on, because the War of Independence requires a focus. And there was no other focus. You couldn't focus it on the battle for the Negev, neither the Galilee, nor even the battle of the Jerusalemites themselves, because the battle for Jerusalem was done by others. This was the Latrun battle. Came the Dani battle. The Dani, they claimed that they did the big thing. They took Ramle and Leda. They enlarged the road to Jerusalem, made it safer. Okay, this is a part of it. So something would have probably cropped up. The fact that I had, divine, gave me the time and the energy to put it all in fact. Today, even if I am dead, because the data is put together in a way that you cannot put it aside. It will come out. I understand Anita's vision that historiography is beaten by public knowledge, and you will not change the knowledge by presenting your facts. I understand it. There is a lot in what she says in that. But I believe that as a focus of longer time, when a lot settles down and we come to the essentials, the battle will get its position for what is it's called for.
Final question. We have enough? Okay, last general question. I'm not going to go through the specifics. We'll do that another time, or we won't do it. People in America ask us, unlike the Jewish Brigade film, which was romantic, sentimental, inspiring, not known, universal story, they say, well, why are you doing this movie? Why should we care about it? We like Israel, we know a little about it, but it doesn't seems like an Israeli story. Beyond the what you said in the beginning, which we've already got on tape, this was about Jerusalem, about the focus of the War of Independence, about a very, very important thing. What in sort of the darker alleys of the story and the darker alleys of this country does this story reflect? I mean, it seems like it's a crossroad of everything. It's Palmachniks versus Ben Gurion, it's left and right, it's immigrants versus people who live here, it's survival versus no survival. It almost seems like the way Latrun sits at the crossroads of those roads. What is this story?
I think all of these, by the way, are marginal. Generally speaking, all these currents, inner currents, making one soup, will suddenly it's the integration of the inner currents, this against them. But what is powerful is the reason for it. See, to this very day, Jerusalem is a question mark. The America doesn't agree, the Senate agrees, Congress agrees, the President doesn't agree to move the embassy to Jerusalem. Why? There is still in the books a decision that Jerusalem is an international, open city. It is still very important to the Vatican. It is important for 1 billion Muslims. It's super important for the Jewish nation. So whatever you do, the Jerusalem is the diamond, which is a very problematical devil. The story is an international story. I believe it. It's not an Israeli. I mean, it's not an Israeli story in that sense. Okay, you can focus the difficulties in Israel of the streams and counter-streams and the arguments one against the other. But all these are, I believe, are, with all due respect, they are secondary to the real story, in that sense that everybody around the world that knows the existence of Jerusalem and knows a little bit about the problem of Jerusalem should see how this spot is important, in this case, for us. Maybe somebody else will do a film how it was important for the Arabs or for the Crusaders or something else. I'm not dwelling on that one. But this is an important thing where the Jewish people, in their outlook for Jerusalem and what it carries with it, was so important that they were ready to do everything possible to go into a battle, to go into a contact, not so much into a battle, which had little chance to succeed, doing such things at haste. Why the hell do you do it in 2 days? Because, as Ben Gurion put it, if we lose it, and it was not sure, we lose the whole business. You lose the battle was on everything, total, either or. Now, people may disagree, may say if you would have lost Jerusalem, it's not the end of the world. I don't know. I think this is the end of many, many years to come. Maybe another 100 or 500 or 1,000. So in that sense, I think it relates not to Israelis. In fact, maybe the Israeli side is not so important to solve whether the Palmach was important, not important, or the Jewish Brigade was carrying it. These are interesting points to put in life into a story. But if you ask me what is the real thing, that is the readiness, the instinct of survival of a renewed born population here to fight for a thing that they sense that this is important. even without knowing all the theory. I happened to be present in the United Nations when the discussion took place. What do we get from this new division plan? But generally people, I think they felt it. I don't, how do you explain inner feelings of people? I don't know. This is what comes into your instincts. This is the whole business of Israel. This is why we have come here. We could have stayed in Minsk, Pinsk, or in New York for that sense. Why the hell did we come here? It's not logical.
One more question.